We'll be right back after this. I'm Michael Corbin. You're listening to the Paranet Continuum. Dr. Leonard Horowitz. The book is Emerging Viruses, AIDS, and Ebola. Leonard, what I'd like to do is I'd like to touch upon the I guess you could call it, you said it was called, the myth of how AIDS is transmitted. One of the things I've noted, this might be a real odd observation, but how much do we have to believe, or how much do we believe that it is truly a blood-borne or body fluid transmitted disease and not something else?
Well, I think it's fairly well established that it is a blood-borne pathogen, a sexually transmitted disease, an IV drug user disease, but that's truly a myth as well. What they won't tell you is that it's a vaccine-related disease. It's a vaccine-borne disease. And in my presentations, and we produced a video where I go into this particular subject, it's called Emerging Viruses and Vaccinations, where I show you from the American Journal of Public Health a study that was done and published in 1989 on IV drug users in 6 U.S. regions that show you that in Baltimore, Maryland, and New York City, there is an extraordinary increase in the number of HIV/AIDS cases among IV drug users. And that would not be the case unless AIDS discriminated. See, we're all told that AIDS doesn't discriminate, and it's primarily through these risky sex habits or these IV drug abusing habits that we are susceptible to getting it.
Right.
When you look at, for example, Tampa, Florida, where the IV drug users don't have any AIDS, compared to, for example, Denver, where you're broadcasting from, where there was 5% of the IV drug users share their bloody needles. I'm sorry, it was about 80% share their bloody needles, yet only about 5% carry the AIDS virus. And compare that to Johns Hopkins area, Baltimore, Maryland, where you had suddenly jumped up to 30-some-odd% carry the AIDS virus, and then it goes even worse in New York City, where 60-some-odd% carry the AIDS virus. You see that in Baltimore, Maryland, and New York City, New York, there was something bizarre happening in the IV drug user community, and what was that? It was the experimental hepatitis B vaccines being given to the junkies as they came into the treatment centers. They were being asked, have you had your hepatitis shot because you're at risk for hepatitis B infection given your risky drug use history, so you better get this vaccine. And that's precisely how those people most plausibly got that disease, through the hepatitis B vaccines, just like the gay men got it in New York City and the blacks in Central Africa got it.
This brings back a memory of mine from probably about 1982. I was dating a girl who worked for a doctor, and there was a big talk going around their office about this bulletin that he had received from the CDC about getting all of his known homosexual patients to come in to his office for a hepatitis B vaccine.
Right.
These things kind of ring true. I mean, they come back to memory.
That's right. And when you put all the pieces together and you follow the history of these, and of course, it's so unbelievable, and you don't want to believe it because there's a loving person in your heart that doesn't want to believe that there'd be such evil around, that people that would do such things. And yet, when you lay out all the documentation, you can't conclude anything but AIDS is genocide with a capital G.
And this is kind of I hate to keep saying this or bring this back, but we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and, this whole New World Order / environmental movement and the whole thing, and how all of this stuff relates. It's interrelated.
That's right.
There's this horrific monolith that's down in Alberton, Georgia, I believe it is, where they pledged to reduce the world's population to 500 million people. Any sane, rational person would want to know, how the hell do they plan on doing this?
Right.
And this has to come. This comes up because this type of thing. What I'd like to do is, if I may, I'd like to read a quote that you have in your book from Russian dissident Alexander Solzhenitsyn.
Yeah.
Solzhenitsyn is the correct pronunciation of the name. He says, to do evil, a human being must first of all believe that what he's doing is good. Ideology, that is what gives devil doing its long-sought justification, and gives the evildoer the necessary steadfastness and determination. That is the social theory which helps to make his acts seem good instead of bad in his own and others' eyes, so that he won't hear reproaches and curses but will receive praise and honors. Are we?
I think of Henry Kissinger.
I think of a lot of guys,
Yeah.
including the creep that just died, Gottlieb.
Oh, man, he was something else.
You know, my question is this. I mean, and I'm sure you pondered this long and hard in your research. How do people truly get to this point of doing stuff like this? I mean, what gives them the right to make decisions of this magnitude?
Well, you know, as a behavioral scientist, you know, with an MPH from Harvard in behavioral science, I think a lot of it has to do with early childhood trauma, where people don't grow like normal, loving, open-hearted human beings. They don't have the ethics and morals and values instilled in them because of positive experiences. They go through some trauma, either ritualized trauma, and that, as you well know, is very intimately involved in MK Ultra. All the mind control experiments that many in the CIA were subject to, and all the people and all the mental institutions that were used as experimental guinea pigs. I mean, trauma-based behavior mod was what was really in vogue during the 40s and 50s, and even 60s. Now they've gone even beyond that to more sophisticated ways of controlling people. But basically, I suspect strongly that what makes these types of people, like Henry Kissinger, we'll use his as an example, at age 16, when he and his parents were about to leave Nazi Germany because the Holocaust was coming on, his greatest gripe was why he couldn't march with the other Nazi youth in the street. Now, this is allegedly a Jew. Now, something's wrong with that type of a human being. There's something really bizarre about that man. And, of course, when you read his biography by Walter Isaacson, the guy is a psychopath. Yet, honestly, I'm telling you,
I believe it.
He is a complete psychopath. And yet, this is the man who was given control over CIA, FBI, and foreign policy at the time they developed these types of microorganisms for germ warfare and population control.
And you know, what you say is very true, because I read something the other day. We've got to take another break, but I want to just mention this before we go into the break. I read something the other day where there is a alarming number of psychopathic deviants who are heading Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah, I believe it.
Okay, this kind of gives you kind of an idea where this whole world is headed.
Absolutely.
Okay, stand by. We're going to take another break. 1-800-836-2009, 1-800-836-2009. Something is really wrong in this world. We need to get down to how we're going to get it turned back around. My guest is Dr. Leonard Horowitz. The book is Emerging Viruses, AIDS, and Ebola. We'll be right back after this. Stay tuned. There's more. I'm Michael Corbin. You're listening to the Paranet Continuum. Dr. Leonard Horowitz. The book is Emerging Viruses, AIDS, and Ebola. And, Leonard, we're about out of time. What I'd like to do is, real quick, if you could, give out any particulars to people, how they can reach you, how they can order the book.
Okay. The best recommendation I have is, though you in Denver area, you have the tattered cover. Basically, they have stock of Emerging Viruses, AIDS, and Ebola. It's a wonderful bookstore. Great people there. People if you don't want to go to the bookstore, call 1-888-508-4787. That's 1-888-508-4787. And like you say, Michael, the easy way to remember it is 1-888-50-VIRUS, V-I-R-U-S. And then if you want to get some email to me, I'm like swamped to the max, but basically we've got a fabulous website that's set up with free downloadable files. And you could spend a whole day reading those files. They're fascinating. And you have links to other organizations and individuals who are making a difference in this area and the areas that we've touched upon tonight. That website address is www.tetrahedron. That's the geometric figure. It's spelled T as in Thomas, ETRAHEDRON .org as an organization. That's tetrahedron.org. And that you can drop me an email posting there. I've been swamped so much. I've got a brand new book coming out very soon, and that's why I have been a little bit negligent in getting back to my emails. I'll try my best.
Okay, well, listen, we're out of time. I want to thank you for being on the program, and I'd like to invite you back to talk about some of the ways that people can remedy this and maybe turn this around. And we'll book you for a later date if that's okay.
I'll be happy to do it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you very much for being with us tonight. Again, that was Dr. Leonard Horowitz, the book Emerging Viruses, AIDS, and Ebola. And that's it for us tonight. You can reach me at 303-863-0484. My email address is mcorbin@dimensional.com, and our website is www.paranetinfo.com, and we will put a link to Dr. Horowitz's website on our website, so you'll be able to get it there too as well. Until next week, I'm Michael Corbin telling you to keep your eyes on the skies. Good night.